Hello! On today's adventure, we are heading to Western New York to the Niagara Escarpment, which is just east of Buffalo and Niagara Falls and south of Lake Ontario. It is a distinct viticulture area, so we'll be seeing some wineries and tasting some wine, and we'll be seeing some interesting features on the old Erie Canal. So come along with us. Welcome back to E-Hermes, your electric adventure travel channel. Please remember to subscribe, hit the like button, and hit that bell button to be notified of our upcoming content. So for this trip, we've gone back to the Tesla Model Y. We are staying in an Airbnb. We're not camping. It's a relatively short, relatively close trip. So the Tesla is still more efficient than the Lightning, so we've decided to go back to that. The plan is to stop one time to charge just outside Buffalo and still arrive at our Airbnb with about 80% battery if we charge completely at that stop. And that'll give us plenty of range to travel around the area. There is a level 2 charger in the town nearest the Airbnb, so if we need to go in there for breakfast tomorrow, perhaps we can charge a little bit of that if we need to. The Cheektowaga, New York supercharger is a hop in place. When we got here, we got the 8th and final charger. It appears there is now 2 available. We stayed here a little bit longer than normal to get up to about a 90% charge because this will be the last supercharger we see until we are back here Sunday afternoon. This is Friday afternoon. So any running around we're going to do up in the wine country, we're going to have to do with what we have here, and maybe if we find a J1772 charger while we're having breakfast somewhere. Because our Airbnb does not have a charger or even an exterior outlet. This is our lodging. The Fairhaven Inn. And this is our room. Say hello, Mrs. E-Hermes.
Hello.
Cute little place. Nautical theme here. Sinks out here, not quite sure why that's that way. Shower. It's nice, glass doors and toilet. And that's where we're staying for the next 2 nights. So this is a tunnel that goes underneath the Erie Canal. So when we go through the tunnel, we'll be underneath the canal, which does have water in it, still has boat traffic on it. So I guess this is technically an aqueduct, but it's pretty unique in that the road, instead of having a bridge over it, goes underneath it. All that water, that's a lot of weight too, you know? Looks like it's leaking too.
It is just seepage, it's not really pouring.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't rain.
So
It does not rain.
then.
It's definitely leaking. This is the only road, I don't know if you can read the sign you park on, it says the Culvert Road, only road under the Erie Canal in Ripley's, believe it or not. The culvert was built in 1823, so I guess it's allowed to leak. So here's the canal in Medina, New York. That's a spillway, so if the level gets too high, the water runs over that into this creek that runs underneath it. Similar to the culvert we drove underneath, this river goes under the canal here and then goes over these falls. This is one of the locks on the Erie Canal. This is in Lockport, New York. This company will take you on a boat ride that takes you through the locks. The clips are at 20 times speed because it's a rather long and tedious process. The boiling water you see coming up is how they raise the water level from the locks. Everything is done with gravity. There are no pumps, just valves that open and let water from the higher elevation into the lock, or when you're going downstream, from the lock into the lower elevation. The canal used to have 5 locks in this location, but when it was modernized in the early 20th century, they reduced that number down to 2 because they were able to use hydraulics and steel gates rather than manpower, literally, and the old wooden gates that used to be in the locks. Once you're through the locks going upstream towards Lake Erie, you then go under what they claim to be the world's widest bridge. That last gate you see opening that doesn't really seem to do anything is just for protection. and that's in case a barge gets away coming downstream. Next, we toured one of the lock bypass tunnels and pipes. Because the lock gates are normally in the closed position and the water in the canal flows from Lake Erie to the Hudson River, in order to keep the canal full of water, there has to be a methodology to get water around the locks. Currently, there are 2 bypass tunnels, one active on the south side with the new modern locks, and one abandoned on the north side. Fortunately for us, you can tour what is called the Lockport Cave and underground boat ride. After nearly a decade of digging and blasting by hand, this tunnel was completed and water could flow through it. All that water flowing and dropping about 50 feet created quite a bit of energy, so they built factories over the top of the tunnel with turbines powering the equipment. However, this was not hydroelectric power, this was direct drive power via belts and pulleys and gears. 2 of the several factories on the site over the years built baskets and fire hydrants. Ironically, the fire hydrant factory caught fire and burned to the ground. This is called the Big Bridge. It's over the Erie Canal. And they say at the time, well at the time I'm sure it was, I doubt that it is now, one of the widest bridges in the world at 399 feet wide. But I do think that it's interesting that it's almost twice as wide as it is long. Since there is no charging available at our place of accommodations for the evening or last evening, we found this charger here in town. It costs $1 an hour to park here. It doesn't cost anything to charge. We got here with just about 50%, and in the last 10 minutes or so we got to 100%, so we are fully charged. We will not have to charge again until we're back at the supercharger outside Buffalo. Here we are back at the Cheektowaga, New York supercharger. We arrived with 24% state of charge in the battery. We charged about 50% while we were away. So we needed 26 of that just to get back here, probably at least 30 to have somewhat of a comfortable buffer. And that kind of highlights what I think is probably the most difficult case for charging. I'm not too concerned when I'm traveling long distances along the highways because there are plenty of particularly Tesla superchargers along all major highways. So you can go across the country up and down, north to south, east to west, no problem. Certainly when you're at home, you charge every night, that's not a problem. It's when you're away from home and you're staying somewhere where you cannot charge overnight that it becomes a problem, because you rely on that. And if you don't charge overnight, it takes a long time to charge at a level 2 charger while you're, say, at a grocery store or a convenience store, so that doesn't really work. We were fortunate that we were able to charge for, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours in Lockport while we did some sightseeing, had some lunch, did some other things, and that worked out really good. And that's a really good charger to have right in the middle of town like that by those attractions. But without that, we would have had to probably have some longer breakfasts at some places and done some other things to get enough electricity in the car to continue our sightseeing while we were away from major superchargers. And the irony of it is, I don't think we were ever more than 50 miles from this supercharger, but we weren't coming back here just to charge. That would have been a little bit out of the way. So this, like I say, I think was one of the harder cases, but it worked out very well because we found that charge point, I believe it was, charger, level 2 charger in Lockport right at City Hall. So we hope you learned a few things on this video about the Erie Canal, Lockport, some wineries, and about some charging strategies. If you did, hit that like button. Please remember to subscribe and hit that bell button to be notified of our upcoming content. Thank you.